Ms. Tenney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Powell. I appreciate your long time here, and I think I'm the end of the line here for you today. So just have a couple of quick questions that deal with sort of in the weeds policy. And first would like to ask you about the Federal Open Markets Committee and their role in determining interest on excess reserves. Back in 2006, Congress passed the Financial Services Regulatory Relief Act, which authorized the Federal Reserve to pay interest on excess reserves at reserve banks. However, when the bill got amended, the Federal Reserve, in determining those interest rates, was left to the Board of Governors and not to the entire Federal Open Markets Committee. And we know this is a valuable tool, using this, the entire committee to determine monetary policy. My question for you is, would you support an initiative or legislation that would give the full role of determining what the excess reserve amount, interest on excess, to an entire expanded FOMC and the Federal Reserve?
I guess I would say this is less of a problem than it seems to be. Remember, the full FOMC decides the range for the federal funds rate, and the IOER is only set at the top of that range, and so it really is the voting members of the FOMC who decide that. So it's not. It would have been a reasonable decision for Congress to do that. I'm always loath to support changes to the Federal Reserve Act because that opens up the act. But I would say, as a practical matter, this is not a problem that we need to solve because there is no difference between the two things.
So would you be supportive or not supportive of legislation that would allow the district presidents basically to weigh in on that decision as well?
Yeah,
and if not, why not?
I don't think we're looking for legislation.
Okay. Obviously, we always like less legislation, but in this case, we're looking for more stakeholders to be in part of the decision process, I think.
So I think that the real decision that's made is the one that the bank presidents do take part in. It's the one that sets the range for the federal funds rate. They make that decision with us under the law. This is just an implementing thing, and if I thought it was really unfair or a problem, then I would support a change. But I don't really think it is a problem. It's less so than it would appear. Okay,
it's been expressed by them that they'd be interested in having input on that. I just wondered if you would consider supportive of that. Let me go to the next thing, and that would be the Federal Open Markets Committee blackout period, and how you feel about that, and whether we could restore some transparency to that period, whether it's necessary to go through that part, just so we know we have an ability to find out what's going on during that period, that 8 times a year when the committee is meeting, where we don't have an opportunity to hear from the stakeholders.
I'd want to look at what you're proposing.
Okay.
The whole idea of that period is that we don't speak publicly to market participants or anybody about monetary policy during that period, and that gives us a chance to keep our mouths shut for a while and let us get in a room and do our thinking, and then we come out of that at the end of the FOMC meeting, make an announcement. And then there's a day or two, and then people can give speeches and that kind of thing. Do
you think there would be anywhere in there on certain parts of the policy that would be maybe better off with more transparency on certain issues? Obviously, there's some that you would like to keep in the negotiating process, but others where we could at least speak on and know what was going to come out at that point.
I think. I'd be happy to discuss this with you offline.
Okay.
Why don't we commit to do that? I don't.
Thank you. No, I'd love to talk. I have a bill of legislation that would just offer a little more transparency in that aspect of it. Just not to eliminate the blackout period, but to minimize some of the issues that are not allowed to be revealed during that blackout period.
We're concerned that when we're actually thinking about what to do at the next meeting, that we kind of take a step away from our public conversations. That's seen as generally been seen by us as a healthy thing. But
okay, one other quick question on another topic. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that 2 monetary policy specialists will serve as your senior advisors. You may recall that our House-passed FORM Act, the Federal Oversight Reform Modernization Act, provides for each Federal Reserve Board governor to also have access to 2 senior advisors. Chairman Powell, would you be willing to allow 2 senior advisors to help a more diverse set of perspectives to your committee's monetary policy deliberations?
I do remember that provision of the bill, as a matter of fact. But you know, I think the board has changed really since, in the time since I've been there. We're back to where every governor has 1 or 2 advisors, so, and we don't need legislation on that.
Okay, so that's something you'd support.
Time of the gentlelady has expired.
Thank you.